This is what I like to do. I like to give you a little skadoodle. You have no idea it's coming, and then I'm like, "Tell me your
Yeah,
thoughts on
I should.
Aladdin Sane."
Here's the thing. This is why I fast forward because I want to hear about the band. Are you a Bowie guy at all?
Yes,
He was
but I'm
before this album.
no,
Tell
no,
me,
no, no.
Josh.
I don't hate this record. I just think it was a harder listen than every other Bowie record I've ever listened to.
Well,
And when
what
I
have you listened to before?
So
This is important.
Ziggy Stardust for sure.
Yeah.
Here, let me pull up his list of albums just so I can be succinct. And so, Peter, you might take 2 seconds, but you might have to edit this quicker. All right, let's go to Spotify. David Bowie. So I have listened to in its entirety, for sure, Ziggy Stardust. For sure, Hunky Dory. For sure, Let's Dance. I listened to Black Star. I've listened to all the greatest hits. I've listened to. No, I haven't listened to Heathen. Earthling, I listened to because that was when he did the Nine Inch Nails type shit. If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, he did like "I'm Afraid of Americans" and was it? Am
Yeah.
I right? Yeah. So I liked that.
All right. So let me help you out. Let me help
Please.
you out a little bit. Okay. Because there's only a couple of people in the history of music that are worth like thinking about. Most people, okay, you know, they come in, there's their first album, and they go on, and you're like, I like them, or I'm not. Dylan,
Yeah.
Beatles, Bowie, and Prince are the only people that you will go, I'm not fucking sure what they're doing now. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know why they did it. So this album is Bowie turning his back on Ziggy Stardust, right? His first fucking hit album that he has,
Yeah.
not in America, by the way, in England. He's not a fucking star in America. And he's immediately going, I don't dig this. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be Ziggy for the rest of my life. So he's got one foot in the last album, which is genius,
Yeah.
and the next foot in the next direction he's going. So this is a transitional album. It's the last time he played with the Spiders, and he's playing different with them. And you're just like, what the fuck is he doing? And that's why you become a Bowie fan. It isn't because I've got 15 tracks that are fucking great and I can fucking work out to them. It's like, what is this fucking mad genius doing?
Wow.
He's coked up for the first time in his life.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
says
he is.
coke. I think it's also meth. You know what I mean? You didn't get
Sure.
a lot of coke in
Yeah.
73. It was harder to get. But here's like, this is the most amazing thing. The cover of this album
Yeah.
is the lightning bolt, right? The most iconic thing. You could see kids' dolls have the lightning bolt. And, you know, you can buy that thing anywhere. The Happy Face will have the lightning bolt. Everyone knows it's Bowie. Dude,
Yeah.
one fucking day is the only day he ever did it. The fucking cover of that album, and he never put the lightning bolt on again.
And
Kiss has worn the same fucking makeup,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, since the beginning, because that's what you do. That's the smart branding. This guy went in a different direction all the time.
Well, it's funny that you say that, and it's very interesting to find out that that was like he did it for the album cover and then he never did it again.
Never again.
Because that really is. I've seen hundreds of thousands of people on social media on Halloween dress that.
Yeah.
God, I'm gonna fuck her name up. April Richardson, who is a comic who actually moved to London, but I knew her from LA. Very on the alt scene. She was so obsessed with Bowie. She like would buy the outfits that he would buy. And I remember one Halloween she did the lightning bolt, and I mean hair, everything. It's like when you think of Bowie, I don't think there's another picture that is more remembered. I mean, that's on every, like you said, every T-shirt. They're still selling that image, and it still sells probably in the top 10 T-shirts sold a year.
One day he wore it and never again. And it never either occurred to him or interested him to stay with that. And why? You know what it's fucking like just to have people pay attention to you, how difficult it is to grab a single hook anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about Bowie. And he did put out, and so does Prince, so does Dylan, of stuff like, I don't even know what you were trying to do here, dude. I don't get it. And so that's like to me, the great thing about being a fan of his. It's not the professional, steady, here's the way we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right after this album, he did he did Pinups, which was a bunch of fucking covers.
Diamond Dogs.
Which was Diamond Dogs was again a hit. And what's the next album he does? Fucking Young Americans.
Young Americans,
right?
Followed.
But just think of that, Young Americans. And I was a kid, right? And they're like, Bowie's coming to Philly. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's glam this shit up. And he came and just did the Philly International Sound. He literally made a fucking soul fucking album when he was the king of glam rock. He just went in another direction, and he walks away from his audience all the time. He just, while they're cheering, he turns around. So I was a Bowie fan when I was a kid, and every fucking album ever I've had to catch up to. Well, I've listened to and I go, man, I don't know.
Completely. You know? Jeremiah even said it. He said it wasn't the first listen. It wasn't the second. You said it was like the sixth, seventh. I probably, listen, I don't want to say I hated it. That's such a strong word. And I completely agree. It's like, this is something that I probably, needed another week with. But what I did know is that it's like, it's different. And I respect the difference, and it's different than any other Bowie album that I've ever heard, and every other song. It does, when you read about the research and you hear about the cocaine, that makes sense. When you read that he wrote this on tour in America on the road, that makes sense because it kind of reflects what that feeling is like traveling from city to city and airport to airport. It's dark, and it's a hard listen. But going with what you said, don't you think, because everybody you mentioned, Dylan, the Beatles, Prince, I'm going to throw Radiohead in there because Radiohead challenges their listeners 100%, and they're global, and I think they're an icon of my age. But don't you feel like that is and Miles Davis, and don't you think that is kind of what a true artist does? A true artist says, I'm going to challenge myself here, and I'm going to challenge my listeners, because what we just did, that's over. We're moving on to something else.
So we're putting, on less than fucking 10 fingers who the people we consider true artists in this entire fucking history of this genre. That's kind of shocking, right?
I know.
That people don't come at this as I'm experimenting, I'm doing stuff. But also, if you look at this album, I know you're going to have at least 3 songs that you're like, those songs will stay with me for fucking ever.
Yeah.
And how many fucking albums have that? You know what I mean?
Many.
Like, how many? And that's what's always funny about like reading like stuff that was written in its time, right? Like reading a rock critic who was like, well, this isn't as good as Ziggy Stardust. And you're like, oh, it wasn't as good as one of the fucking greatest albums that's ever been. And you can't even understand what it's based on. You know what I mean? So you were disappointed that you didn't get another Ziggy Stardust. When he calls the fucking album Aladdin Sane, he's telling you, I'm
insane.
Right,
yeah.
I got everything that I thought I wanted, and it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Yeah. This feeling of success is not what it was in my fantasy. And I think that's fucking, I think that's fascinating.